8:12. Did you ever get that weird feeling like maybe somebody's watching you as you surf the internet? Well, you're not being paranoid. Joining me to explain is our tech expert, Dave Hatter. We were talking a lot about this in the break because I'm just kind of mind blown about what's happening in the digital world. I mean, there was a stat that said 95% of Americans have cell phones.
And I'm sure that's probably true.
And so in this case, now, who's watching us and what do they get from it?
Well, they're watching, pretty much everyone is watching you because there's enormous value in this data, not only to the people that initially collect it, but then to sell it to other companies, other businesses that want to use it to connect with you somehow, sell you something, whatever. So there's enormous value in data. And I try to tell people all the time, if you're not paying with money, you're paying with data. People aren't providing all these services, apps, so forth for free, right? They're getting your data, which they're trying to monetize somehow. So in this particular case, you know, websites have always tracked a certain amount of information about you. It's just the nature of the way the technology works. But there's a relatively new thing out there called a session replay script. So someone like Microsoft, who actually uses this on their website, works with a third party to inject this session replay script. And in the past, if you went to a website and filled out a form, like, you know, contact information or whatever,
sure,
and then didn't hit the submit button, they never got that information. It never was sent back to their server. With these session replay scripts, they're literally tracking everything you do on the site, everywhere your mouse goes. Things that in the past would not have been tracked until you hit a button and said, you can have this, is now being tracked all the time. And the real nasty part of it is it's typically going to a third party who now also has that information. So you might be searching about medical conditions or something you wouldn't necessarily want well known, and now who knows who has that information.
Okay, so let's point it out. What websites do we need to be aware of?
Well, there's about 482 that are known. A company did some research on this, and they looked at the top 50,000 websites based on traffic. So they're saying, how heavily visited are these websites? Here's 50,000. They've identified at least 482 people like Samsung, HP, Microsoft, Adobe. You know, many well-known organizations are using this technology. Now, they purport to do it because it gives them feedback and helps them improve the site, which of course gives you a better user experience. But again, they're collecting data that in the past they wouldn't have been able to collect, and most people do not understand it's being collected, and that's the problem in my mind.
Okay, so how do we protect ourselves?
Well, unfortunately, Dan, at the moment there isn't any real way to protect yourself. First off, for a non-technical person, there's really no way to even know this is being done, short of go out and look and, you know, search on session replay script and see if you can find out who's using this and avoid those sites, because you know, most modern browsers have something called Do Not Track, which tries to eliminate a lot of this tracking and improve your privacy, but that won't stop this. So at the moment, there really isn't any way to avoid this technique except to avoid the websites that implement it. And knowing that can be difficult, unfortunately.
All right, so we're running out of time. A lot more on this discussion, a lot more on all of the tips that Dave gave us. It's on the website, fox19now.com, but certainly scary, and obviously the best advice: be careful when you're on the internet.
Always be careful, be skeptical. People want your information, and at least understand that it is possible to capture everything you're doing. And as long as you keep that in mind, you can at least protect yourself to some extent.
Dave Hatter, everybody, thank you very much
for
those
Dan.
tips. All right, let's go over to weather, because we are talking about a lot of fog and other